Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mina Mahmood, and today, as a part of this IUN Oral History Project, today I am very grateful and honored to be joined with Ken Iwama, who has served as our Chancellor here at IU Northwest from 2020 to 2024, and who will now be stepping in as Vice President of Regional Campuses and Online Education. So
That is
thank you
right.
so much for stepping in today and coming in to share your story and some of your experiences.
Thank you. The honor is right back to you. It's actually an honor to be asked and to be here today. So
Thank you
thank you,
so
Mina. I
much. I
appreciate
really appreciate it. So we're just going to jump right in.
it. Sure.
The purpose of today is to just kind of get a better sense of understanding of, your contributions here at IU Northwest and also your contributions in general to academia, and also better understanding your personal story and your history.
Okay, terrific. How would you like me to start? Is anything particular you want me to
Yes.
jump into? I mean, I can. It's easy to jump into when I got here. That's kind of a starting point for IU Northwest,
Yeah,
but
that would
kind
be
of a
great.
midpoint in my professional career. It's interesting. You don't ask to assume leadership positions during pivotal points in history, but I just found myself within those points, and because I came and I was officially appointed August 2020. Had done some work with IU North before then, but for those who know now, but also many years for those who reflect on this interview from now, that was right in the middle of the global pandemic. And so I think that across the country there are a little more than a handful, but maybe between 70 or between 100 of presidents or chancellors that started during that time. So we have this unique bond of starting during such a tragic time in history, a time full of anxiety, fear, concern, and loss. And so that's when I came here in August 2020, my one of my jobs is to start to bring people back, to ensure the health and safety of students, staff, and faculty along that process. And so the normal weight of starting for a position as president or chancellor for an institution, I think the weight was probably increased a little bit more upon all of us in terms of that, because again, not what kind of I anticipated in terms of my rollout as chancellor of IU Northwest. Now that being said, within the context of challenges in history, there's also tremendous opportunity to build, right, and to build community, to address those global but also institutional concerns. And I have to say, looking back on that first year here, and some residual effects into following years, it was such a rewarding time for me to see the campus come together at a time when many institutions across the country were torn apart because of, again, something so critical and talking about our lives.
Definitely.
The emotions run very deep, and opinions and concerns run deep. But I think we were able to, because of the nature of our community here, and our collaborative nature, our caringness of each other, that helps me, and I help the campus really tackle an issue head on of that incredible scope. And I think our successful transition back to sparse, right? Initially sparse return to campus with all the masking and all the distancing, all the sanitization, all everything that goes into that process. We did it, and it helped me actually see the foundation post pandemic of growth. And I said, well, if we can get through that, and I can see the goodwill and the support and the caring, then there's really nothing you can't accomplish. And so it was extremely valuable for me to see that. I would have seen it anyway, but I think it put front and center about the nature of who we are. So I tend to be I'm not optimist even in the worst situations, right? And so this gave me grounds for great optimism.
That's amazing. And it's really great that you have that perspective, because that really rubs off on a lot of our students in our community here at IU Northwest.
Thank you.
So, I guess a question that kind of sparked from that conversation that we
Mhm.
just had was, where do you think that some of those values that you have now, in terms of like being optimistic, where do you think that was shaped from, or what were some early influences back in your life that helped give you that mindset?
Yeah, I think my perspective was built, and I go back to when I was in college.
Hmm.
Back at the University of New Hampshire, right, public institution, and as a young Asian American trying to find my way and my
Hmm.
identity, and somebody who had a voice didn't really know how to express it, or express it in a way that I felt heard. It's
Hmm.
part of your growth, right,
Hmm.
as a human being. I was an English major in college, and for the first time, exposed to on a concentrated level, the readings and the writings of authors from a diverse
Hmm.
spectrum.
Definitely.
And among my education, I learned really about the role of civil rights in our country,
Hmm.
and the lived experience of so many different people, and put my own upbringing and my thoughts and challenges and growing up um, as an Asian American. It helped really give me a great context to that, and it helped start to form my voice.
Hmm.
And started to exercise it in college. But it also gave me a roadmap in some ways to my future, because within the civil rights movement, I became intrigued by how those how social activism and
Hmm.
change actually evolves and happens. And one thing I saw was how law,
Hmm. Plays into that.
lawyers,
Yeah.
yeah, lawyers, advocates, and judges in the Supreme Court, can drive change one way or the other, positive or
Hmm.
negative. And so when I saw that, I was intrigued by that power to make change. And so, as an idealistic, uh, uh, you know, a young person in college, the wheels started to turning. Well, maybe someday I can make that type of impact. Now, I did become a lawyer. I did go to law school. I did become a lawyer,
Hmm.
and but didn't necessarily fulfill my idealism in that way, because
Hmm.
I didn't become a civil rights lawyer. I became a labor and employment lawyer, and then started graduate, and started moving towards education. I started concentrating labor employment in education institutions, including K through 12, PK through
Hmm.
12, and then higher education. And so I was able to take these thoughts about social justice and social change, but in the context, not necessarily in law, but in higher education administration,
Hmm.
right? And so that's kind of the pathway of the thoughts of why I actually decided to come to IU Northwest, with its integration of community need as well as student need. It's our diversity of our communities, the diversity of
Hmm.
our students, diversity of our faculty and staff. It all played into this thing that probably the seeds were planted a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now, to get to your question, in
No,
terms
you're
of
fine.
really, I think part of that, the building and growth and change and collaboration comes from those thoughts, because
Hmm.
change has to involve real change has to involve constituent uh,
Hmm.
buy-in and um, and belief in each other, right? And so I think that had the seeds were from that as well too. But through as long as I can remember, in terms of my professional life, especially, hopefully my personal life as well too, I think I had an understanding that people are the most important thing, right? I say this: you have this beautiful archives, right? And you have these beautiful buildings at IU Northwest, right? But it's not the physical structure of places. It's the people that make the places, right? It's our
Hmm.
communities. It is the students, faculty, and staff, and never lose sight of that. And
Hmm.
so, if that's the most important thing, then the most important skill set for a chancellor, for my is engaging with the
Hmm.
community, engaging with people, trying to understand their perspectives, their experiences, and to be to molded and guided by people, and not necessarily about my particular vision or uh, uh, or any other particular vision other than the vision for
For the
the
community.
community. Yeah.
Okay. I really like the way that you illustrated that, and that kind of, I feel like that really represents the values that you want to instill at the university and,
Excellent.
of course, at a higher level now with all the regional campuses.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, another question that I have is that prior to your days in college, did you expect that you would enter, the law field or even higher education?
No.
No.
You know, I think most chancellors or presidents of higher education institutions probably did not envision themselves in that. And my circuitous path towards where I am today probably couldn't have been planned, right?
Hmm.
I think growing up, and this reflects my concentration as an English major, I like to write,
Hmm.
right? And I like to read and I like to write and I like to learn of through those mediums of reading and writing. Not necessarily, we didn't have YouTube and things like that when I was. I think that background of visioning and imagining, right, as a creative writer, that was something that I valued and did a lot in my younger years. Uh, I think the vision of potentially doing something of large impact in this world. Maybe you started from those creative
Hmm.
thoughts
Yeah.
processes, because then you should always turn those creative thoughts to yourself as well too,
Hmm.
because we're always stuck in our own boundaries and our own visions of ceilings and you know what other people have expect of us, and then sometimes that imprints upon what we expect of ourselves. But the concept of dreaming and the concept of being creative, that output, when you turn it inward, you can also be creative with yourself. and
Hmm.
and and as you go through life, as doors open up, those it just expands your thought process of what you can do and the impact that you can make upon the world.
Definitely. Yeah. Did you, growing up, have any like expectations or hard expectations from your family or your friends or your surrounding community that
Yes.
kind of deferred you from where you ended up now?
uh, yeah, education in my
Hmm.
family was core
Hmm.
to our family and the expectations. So it was not necessarily the expectations of fame, glory, being wealthy. That no, my parents' vision of value came from education, and
Hmm.
so that was instilled in me. It took a long time to click for me, though. I have to
Hmm.
tell you. Um, Growing up in high school and middle school, as I grew up in a town that was not very diverse. So as you grow up, the priority is to assimilate,
Hmm.
and the priority is to be popular, and the priority is to not stick out, right? And so I didn't really have a large Asian community to rely
Hmm.
upon when I was growing up. And so, you know, uh, from that dynamic, and then again, as I progressed through my education and through college, it was the education that gave me the value again to put my experience in context, right?
Hmm.
And to really come out of my shell. And then in colleges where I really came out of my shell and started to embrace my identity and my
Hmm.
experience and my upbringing and the upbringing of the history and legacy of my parents and before them. And so it's a remarkable thing when education can help you make that pivot
Hmm.
towards um, wanting to distance yourself what makes you different, to then embracing
Hmm.
to what makes you different,
Like
and
actually
then
learning about yourself.
learning about yourself
Yeah.
and saying, really, so much of my value comes from those differences, and this
Hmm.
is how I feel about diversity, right? That
Hmm.
is the critical nature of diversity, the importance what we bring to the table, and be able to vision anew as we move forward and as the world continues to change.
Definitely. I really like your perspective on that. And
Thank
another
you.
question that I had was kind of how does your own cultural background help shape your, further perspective on diversity and how you want to instill that um, with your educational background now, kind of different than how you grew up?
Yeah, so I think many of the struggles that I had growing up in terms of identity,
Hmm.
feelings of isolation, and things like that, I think that's part of our job as educators, as those who support students in there. So, as a leader of a higher education institution, and I was also a leader, not the head in terms of K through 12 institutions as well too.
Hmm.
That's part of my background as well too. It has always been an imperative to provide that same type of aha moments for our
Hmm.
students, and that's empowering voices, right? Empowering voices. And you would not know if you met me unless you got me in my comfort zone. Like if I was in a room of strangers, I'd be the person in the corner, right?
Hmm.
Trying to find an excuse not to engage with anyone, or looking for somebody that I knew as a safe space and space conversation, and so just grabbing them, saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
yeah," and I think all students can relate to that. So I see that when it happens here. I see it when students all of a sudden find their voice, and their diverse voice and their unique voice, and so that has always driven me. And so when I actually, I used to work in the City University of New York, the College of Staten Island, and when I first started looking at IU Northwest, when that opportunity came to become chancellor here, the first thing I did was look at the demographics of the students.
Hmm.
That's the first thing I did. And I looked at the demographics of students here, and I looked because I also love the City University of New York, the diversity there that we had. And I saw so much similarity. And
Hmm.
again, that teaches me not to have presumptions about the Midwest and about
Hmm.
diversity in the Midwest, because certainly Northwest Indiana is more diverse than many parts of the state, and so it helped me understand about the possibilities of me coming here, because it drives. You have to have alignment with what your passions are,
Hmm.
right? And students are my passion. uh, you can only fool people for so long. So if you come as an inauthentic person,
Hmm.
you don't value diversity, you don't value diversity of communities, that's not really interest. At some point in time, that'll come out, right?
Hmm.
And so it was important for me to say, how can I be of best service to IU Northwest and our communities? And that's what is in here, right? What I have to offer here, um, and bringing that to our both internal and external communities. Can that help?
Hmm.
And the really core to that is mission alignment, right?
Hmm. Yep.
And if my mission is students, right, and life changing experiences of students from all walks of life, and IU Northwest, that is their mission as well too, and our regions believe in that mission. That's why there was alignment here, and that's why I
Hmm.
was so interested in applying
That's
to become here.
amazing. So, on that note, what have been some of your favorite aha moments here at IU Northwest that have, dealt with people finding their voice and things like that and coming into that,
One,
coming out of their shell?
yeah, I think um, one of the, I can talk about a little bit specific programs, including group scholars, which
Hmm.
is really one of the great things that we accomplished here. But it's kind of just representative and symbolic of the other things that we do for student support here as well too. But when I arrived at IU Northwest, I just saw and I heard the the need and the urgency and the desire for everyone to better connect with their communities,
Hmm.
right? And the way you connect with communities, we have so much power and energy here at IU Northwest, right? Every student has an incredible story. We see it focused in commencement, right? You're like, oh my goodness, it's like you couldn't make these stories up of student success, right?
Hmm.
Trials and tribulations, struggle, but of success, right? And connecting that energy in the faculty research that we have, faculty excellence in terms of scholarship and community service, as well as the staff here. I think the piece that I saw as an opportunity was connecting those to our communities, and then and taking the power of our communities, both in the city of Gary, but every other area and municipality and town and city within the Northwest region. That reciprocal energy, right?
Hmm.
And so that was a an urgency and a goal of mine, and a goal, frankly, of the campus and our community as well, to bridging that gap for sustainable partnerships,
Mm-hmm.
where I think you 50% from externally, 50% internally, and then all boats rise, right? It's having skin in the game from both
Mm-hmm.
sides of the equation. And I think we've been able to do that. And what it brings out, it's not just giving things to our community. It's not community giving to us, it's giving to each other. And where the whole becomes the greater the sum of the parts. Like I said, all boats rise and rise higher than they could do on their own. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, perfect example that, we have this great college fair every year, and it's been a collaboration with the Urban League, bringing
Mm-hmm.
over 1,000 students here on our campus. Now, we don't embargo students, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not just Ivy Tech is there, Valparaiso University is there, Purdue Northwest is there, right? We're sharing the wealth of student promise with everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but it's on our campus, right? And people, students who have never been on a college campus or are not familiar with IU Northwest, all of a sudden they see the grandeur of a regional campus and what
Mm-hmm.
it can offer to them in terms of the future. And so that comes out of collaborative community collaboration, and that helps the community and it helps us. Last night, this is a perfect example. We had a huge event at the Hard Rock Casino because we just announced, it'll be in the paper, that they gave $250,000 to the Urban League to provide students scholarships and support
Oh,
for
wow,
our
that's
students here.
incredible.
You know, and so we're gonna be able to touch so many lives, but that comes out of those community partnerships, right? It
Mm-hmm.
helps the Hard Rock in terms of its community relations and driving what it needs
In
to do
our
like it.
relations too, yeah.
Our relations, Urban League, what its mission is. So it's like this mission alignment. But the key to that is exposing what our greatness is. It
Mm-hmm.
starts with the students, but it's also what our faculty and staff do in support of those students. And when you unleash that value, right, people want to be participating to help them as well
Mm-hmm.
too, right? At the end of the day. And so I think in terms of that community engagement and advancing, you get to another point, which is really it lies at the bottom, I think, of my leadership and the leadership of my cabinet team, as well as everyone on campus, is advancing the value of the regional campuses, right? Higher education across the country. There's a lot of criticism of higher education, and much of it stems from, perceived high cost,
Mm-hmm.
not a return on investment. When you hear these narratives across the country, and that's not us. That's not the regional campus, right? We know not only are we a great value to our students in terms of many of our students do not leave here surrounded by debt, right? But it's not just that, because no student wants an economic deal if they can't get the value. But here, you also get the value of incredible programs, IU degree, right, from
Mm-hmm.
IU Northwest, and can launch you in any way that you want to be, that you want to grow and you
Mm-hmm.
want to succeed and you want to achieve. Just like the feelings and thoughts, the things that college did for me, we do here at IU Northwest. And so, um, all the things, though, the energies that you're talking about, all this, it at the end of the day, it's incumbent upon me and everyone to talk about how important IU Northwest is and regional public institutions are for, frankly, and I don't want to get hyperbolic here, and I don't want to get too grandiose in terms of how we're important as an institution, but I do believe we are the future, we are the present and the future of American democracy. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what. We deal in socioeconomic mobility of our students,
Mm-hmm.
right? Many institutions across the country, students come in here, right, into socioeconomic mobility, and they end up here.
Mm-hmm.
Many of our students, because they're first generation and haven't had the history and long legacy of higher education, they're coming in here
Mm-hmm.
and moving all the way to here. So in terms of mission, I can't think of anything more valuable. We're helping to move the next generation of our students to the middle class, but in many cases much further
Mm-hmm.
beyond. And that's showing out in our alumni. That's demonstrated by our alumni and all the great students that graduate from IU Northwest. So, sorry to get on my high horse
No,
there,
you're fine.
but that's how important I think this institution is.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, chancellors and presidents, just need to be more vocal about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the naysayers of higher education, we have to say, okay, that is not us, and this is who we are, and this is our value, and this is why we need support from everyone to make sure that we're here forever.
Definitely. I like the way that you illustrated that, how our school is kind of going above and beyond to
Absolutely.
kind of, re-establish the sense of education in a
Yeah.
more, you know, tangible way for everyone to understand.
Yeah, some of our students are not privileged, right?
Hmm.
Economically or otherwise, and so, when we see the movement that I've seen it. I've just seen it every day. It's just you have to provide the light at the end of the tunnel and spark that light within
Hmm.
themselves, and they will achieve as much or more than any student in any institution in this country. And I've seen it. I've talked to her. I know our students. I know our students, and so I see it. And
Hmm.
so that's the inspiration that gets me up in the morning every day.
So, on that note, what have been some of your other favorite accomplishments that you've been able to accomplish here that also kind of go back to what you've been saying about doing what you love to do?
Yeah, I think the group scholars is just a great microcosm and symbolic of
Hmm.
all the great things that we do here. To be able to, the history of that a little bit is that it's been a over 5 decades program in Bloomington, where it
Hmm.
started in Bloomington, and the opportunity came from IU, right? Give IU credit that hey, would a regional campus be interested in advancing a seminal program that has advanced first generation students, students of color, students for traditionally underrepresented communities, and provide the supports necessary to overcome any obstacles and let them fly, right?
Hmm.
In terms of that's the program in a nutshell, right? And it has, you know, the proof is in the pudding in terms of how successful it has been.
Hmm.
But why haven't we, expand this to regional campuses as well too? And so when the opportunity came up, I said, let's do it. And so for our great team here at IU Northwest, we were able to, within a couple months, actually start the first group scholars program with a small. I think we
Hmm.
had 20 students to the first group, and so what happened because of our success in that, and even the early going success of that, it was adopted by every regional campus, and now the announcement was it has been it's going to be in IU Indianapolis as well too. So think about that. Think about the leadership that's been provided here, and again, a lot of it is administrative and faculty leadership and staff, but it was really the students, right? I remember a time when the first class of group scholar students were able to. We had a president. The president had come
Hmm.
visited
President
here,
Witten, huh?
and we were able to have a meeting and to tell the stories and to tell what the students thought about the program. That has such an impact, right, on my predecessor, the former vice president of regional campus online education, as well as the president, that that our growth was assured and the support to expand that program was assured. But this is that group scholars point, that intensified support, again, just to help students along, and once they're going to fly, right? They're going to fly. But what the support systems that we put into place and continue to put in place, and the energy of the students and the success of the students, that shows those life changing programs and supports that we're able to do here. So that's one of the things that I'm so proud of at this institution,
Hmm.
among many others. Now, one of the other aspects that I can point to is, again, connection to community, and how our students get involved in research projects
Hmm.
and support of our communities, along with faculty members and staff. Right? And so, one of the things that we've been trying to do is to get that academic energy and unleash it to our communities, to help our communities in the areas that they feel they need support. And so, one of those things is this tax churner study that we did. And so, if you look at our surrounding communities, you'll see, as part of economic development and growth, you'll see some struggles with property development, right?
Hmm.
And you'll see older homes being abandoned, right? And what can we do uh, um, with these parcels of property that, if for the greater advancement of our cities, could be used in terms of better planning, right, moving
Hmm.
forward. But one of the problems that we were having within the city and in some of our surrounding areas was, we had owners of these properties that in many ways were not paying taxes on this property. And again, that is critical to growth of communities,
Mm-hmm.
property taxes and other forms of support in terms of revenue for the cities.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't happening. There was no mechanism to compel property transfer when these types of things happen. So cities were kind of essentially, and certainly the city of Gary, were held at bay because they could not be able to turn the economic development around for these parcels. And so our faculty and students assisting able to do a study with the Lake County commissioners to be able to, it was an 8-part study to be able to find the problem, map out the properties, and then ultimately have recommendations for solutions. So,
Mm-hmm.
why did this have such a great impact? And this is again the power of regional campuses in our community-based research. It actually led to some of our local legislators to say this is a problem, and we're gonna do our best to turn this into a law to help not only uh, uh, Lake County and our other surrounding counties
Mm-hmm.
that we serve, but to serve the entire state. And that's why unanimous vote by our legislature and then signed by the governor to pass a law to address these issues. Because it turns out that the same issues that we're facing in rural communities across in other cities across the
Oh
state,
wow. Uh-huh.
this was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so from this relatively small campus, in terms of community collaboration, not only had a local impact and regional impact, a statewide impact.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we do. And so, and again, students were at the heart of the research project as well too.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the types of things, right, that advance student success and support as well too, right? When students are involved in research and they can see the impact of it, it starts driving their thoughts process of in terms of my career, what can I do as well too? How can, and again, going back to my story about wanting to make impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just empowerment, right? Empowerment, which is what Group Scholars does, what many of our programs do here in terms of student success in all our programs at IU Northwest. But it comes back down to voice and empowerment, and all these things lend to that.
That's incredible. And kind of on that note, what was kind of some of the ways that, your own personal experiences helped give you that empowerment, or if you had any, notable mentors in your life or people or organizations that helped empower you the same way that we're doing for other students?
When I had great mentors, as
Mm-hmm.
great presidents and great leaders, superintendents in the K through 12 there that encouraged my career path, gave me opportunities that help advance my career. I was involved in a couple of leadership programs
Mm-hmm.
nationally, and I'm still involved with it. And one of them is through this organization called ASCU, which supports state colleges, universities
Mm-hmm.
across our country. And it was called the Millennium Leadership Initiative, and it had a long-standing presence within that ASCII organization of trying to address the problem of the lack of diversity in leadership,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so uh, I participated with the support of one of my mentors to be able to go through that program and to see other burgeoning leaders, right, from across the landscape that makes us great, right, as
Mm-hmm.
a nation, from every walk of life, to be able to talk to and to share experiences and to see what the obstacles, but the opportunities in terms of leadership path.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, taking that experience, I give back now. I present at the MLI Institute every year. I'm on the steering committee now, choosing and helping
Mm-hmm.
to identify the next leaders as we move forward. And so I think that's always been part of me as well too, the leadership and professional one. So I've been helped, and so now I'm trying to help others. Again, let's take off the guardrails. Let's take off the perceived ceilings and the perceived
Mm-hmm.
limitations. Also knowing realities and how to address obstacles, either imagined or real, to help people fulfill the goals and the aspirations that they have moving forward. So I've been helped along my entire career, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm trying to provide that same Yeah, giving back, same thing. And
Definitely.
as a chancellor, giving back
Hmm.
to the life-changing experience I had in higher education, that's what I'm trying to do. But also in terms
Hmm.
of leadership now, and talking to students about their, they may be 20 years away from becoming a CEO, or if that's their path,
Hmm.
they may not. It's realizing what they want to do and want to
Hmm.
be, and so that is permeated both by professional, personal, and my own experience over the years.
Yeah, I really like the way that you put it because now you're kind of doing the same for others.
Trying to.
And no, of course you are because your leadership has been eminent here, even in
Thank you.
the 2 years that I've been here at
Oh,
IU Northwest.
thank you so much. Thank you.
So, like you said before, the Group Scholars Program, I'm of course really biased because I love that program and I love
Yeah, I
working with
heard a
all the
rumor
students
that
there.
you're a star in that program.
um, so I'm of course very excited to see other students at other campuses be able to be a part of that now. So what are kind of your perspective on how we can better, have things that support diversity and inclusion at other campuses, especially at some of these other campuses that don't have as much of diversity as our campus does.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, um, as we talk about the term diversity,
Hmm.
and what that means to different people, right? Yeah. When we expanded actually the Group Scholar program among other regional campuses, you're correct. Some of the campuses don't have, what we think is traditional diversity,
Hmm.
right? But many of these campuses, the same struggles for students that may be struggling socioeconomically uh, from rural counties, right?
Hmm.
From rural areas. There are differences, which, again, it's critical to point out that there are
Hmm.
differences as well too, but there are a lot of similarities as well
Hmm.
too. So we're able to, I think, collectively find out, like a Group Scholars way, how can we diversify the Group Scholars program to serve different needs of students and moving forward as well too. So we are an HSI MSI.
Hmm.
We became a Hispanic serving institution just shortly before I arrived here in terms of, and that's a number, right? That's 25% of the student body.
Hmm.
Once you have that identify Latino, Hispanic, as the federal designation is, uh, once you meet that percentage mark, you become as the federal government in terms of Hispanic serving institution by the Department of Education. Right? But that's just a number, right?
Hmm.
And I think there's a danger in trying to say espousing some accomplishment by just a number. It does mean something, right?
Hmm.
Numbers and diversity mean something about students wanting to come here. But let's get beyond the actual number and say, well, what are we doing to actually to earn that designation as
Hmm.
a minority serving institution and a Hispanic serving institution? So remember, it's Hispanic serving institution. It's a minority serving institution with the emphasis on serving. So our goal with all institutions is recognize the numbers and the growing diversity that we have, right? In attracting students from all walks of life to solidify that diversity and encourage that diversity. But just as important, what are we doing in terms of best practices to serve students
Hmm.
at the end of the day? And I think that's where the future lies. Serving the students so they not only enroll here, but they graduate
Hmm.
and they succeed and they be able to pursue professions or academia, graduate school, whatever students want to do to make sure that that pathway is solidified moving forward. So that is a big feature. And, in terms of diversity as well too, I have been aided in terms of my leadership by having extremely diverse student bodies, staff, faculty. My cabinet is one of the
Hmm.
most diverse, senior leaderships across the state. And again, that's not because of numbers. It's because I know the value of diversity and diverse voices. So it
Hmm.
helps me to avoid making critical mistakes and 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 missing critical opportunities moving forward. And so when you surround and embed yourself with diverse thoughts, you become a better leader.
Hmm.
Right? And so the diversity of student bodies and what happens in the classroom, what happens when you're walking down the hallways, and it doesn't have to be agreement. A lot of times, the best learning experience I had was when disagreement, or I had assumptions and somebody corrected me on my assumptions in a positive way. It helps you grow. And so, my
Hmm.
success in leadership, if and through the years, if somebody wants to term it, describe it as successful, it's this has been a significant part of it. And so as we grow the leaders of tomorrow, having people challenge thoughts and perceptions, because we all have biases. We have, and being able to grow out of those biases and to be able to leverage all of us together in our experiences. That's the true and that's not just words.
Mm-hmm.
That's my experience, and that has helped me so much in my career. And I think what has happened as leadership for me as well too, and especially during the pandemic, and the rise of social justice issues on massive scales in this country as we move forward. I used to be more confident in my thoughts about my perceptions. As you're a leader, you have
Yeah.
an ego and you think this is the way things should be. I think part of my education and my leadership development is understanding what I don't know
Mm-hmm.
and being comfortable with the fact that I'm ignorant to a lot of things in the world. And I have to be curious about it, and I have to want to learn about it. And it helps shape me as an organic human being, where
Mm-hmm.
my mind yesterday, the ability to change your mind is a great gift as a human being, right? And change your perceptions
Mm-hmm.
and to grow, right? And so that's the beauty of diversity, and that's the beauty of being embedded in diversity, and that's the power of it as well too in terms of leadership.
Definitely. I really like the way that you illustrated that for me.
Thank you. Thank you.
So another thing that came to mind is kind of looking back at your own personal growth. What do you think have been some of the biggest challenges that you've encountered over your personal journey that have kind of helped further reestablish those values that you have today?
Well,
Especially with like the COVID pandemic
yeah,
too.
COVID, the pandemic was such the weight of that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt, and I know we all share that responsibility, but the lives of everyone I felt like I had a direct, and I did, very direct responsibility for the health and safety, and to some extent, whether somebody would get sick or not sick. So that was weighing on me and weighing on a lot of people as well too. I think in looking back on those challenges, and again, it aligns with some of the things that we've discussed already. You know, coming to those to the meetings that I had with students, faculty, and staff, to the community, with the perspective of I have the same anxieties that you do. I have the same fears.
Like the
That you,
empathy that you're
yeah,
feeling still.
and from my perception of leadership, right? That's probably not how it had felt 10 years ago. This perception of you have to be this tower of strength, right? You have to position yourself in a position of strength where the things that may cause fear upon others doesn't. I'm not fear. Yeah, I think those days are gone in terms of effective leadership, and I think you have to have the position of strength of a way forward. But before you go way forward, you have to acknowledge the pain, the fear that everyone is feeling. Otherwise, again, people don't feel heard, and they don't feel that you're connecting with them, and the decisions that you're making are not reflecting how people are feeling, right? And so one of the great educations that I have in the struggles, but is my own different perspectives of leadership, of what really makes a great leader, and or somebody who's aspiring to be an effective leader, is empathy, but in real time. Empathy in real time. We have a crisis. How can I best communicate? How can you best communicate to me so I'm making the best decision? And that is by, you know, pulling away the curtain in terms of who I am as a human being, and allows people to feel, I think, maybe more comfortable to expressing how they are feeling as well too, and you can be better informed in terms of what you. But at the end of the day, you still have to make decisions, but you're doing it from a point of understanding, as rather a point of, this is my perception of the world. This is my perception of how things should be, and I'm imposing it upon you, which this day and age just doesn't work.
I agree. And I think that your leadership has definitely worked, because I know, even from my perspective, you are a very approachable person, and especially with different organizations, things like that. You've always been someone who's always very empathetic and understanding.
Where I get my energy from, right? We have
Yeah.
most of my day is not fun like this and inspiring like this. Most of my day is just dealing with the day-to-day problems that we have, with any organization, right? And so what gives you, what nourishes you in terms of your mind and your heart and your inspiration every morning? It's things like this, right? It's meetings like the community that I had last night for that big event. It's getting the feedback, whether positive or negative. It's just engagement of human beings in a positive way. That is, it's tough these days, right? It's tough with all the negativity and the toxicity and all this. At the end of the day, do you believe in the future of human beings or not? And sometimes you wonder, right? Sometimes it's like, oh, it is so bad out there in some things and some issues that you're wondering where the heart of people are. But IU Northwest gives you this reassurance, and our communities give you reassurance that we're okay. And more of us want to see us get together than not get together.
Yeah, definitely.
And so that may be a little bit too optimistic for some, but that is core to how I move forward. I want to say one thing though as well too, in terms of, and I'm so happy to be here talking about my experience here, but it's something I said last night actually in the event last night. And I mean this, it's not about me, right? And it's not about any particular leader. In fact, I think that's a faulty aspect of leadership, is that if everything that we've accomplished falls apart in the next couple of years, look back and you can say, Chancellor was a failed leader, right? Because for me, it's not, I really don't really care about being remembered as a person, as a name. What I care about is what we've put into place here, the energies that we've built, the connections that is sustainable for the next 100 years, right? And I know we'll have waves as we move forward, as every institution does, but that is the remark. Again, we talk about leadership and what is the mark, I think, of effective leadership. It is whoever assumes this role as chancellor for the next 100 years, things have been put in place here where you cannot, even if you tried, you can't go back, right? Because the expectations on campus, we don't want to go back. We want more engagement, right? We want advanced diversity. We want to advance student success, the value native regional campuses, the connection. So that has always been my goal, right? And so I appreciate being part of this history and this, but again, it's not about me. And so I want this campus to be successful for the next generation, your generation of students, but for the next generation of students to become. And if I had that way, I can look back, in many years from now, when I'm retired, and I can look back with some satisfaction and some sense of pride that I was part of the solution, and maybe
it's still working.
Part in the catalyst, but it is still working, and other people are getting credit for the things that are going to happen in the future, which they're going to happen.
That's a really great outlook to have, and I know it will happen.
Thank you.
I know everything will
Hearing
continue to work.
Gives me a lot of hope.
I'm glad. So another question that I had, of course I have to ask, is, we've been talking so much about like everything that you've been doing in terms of higher education, but what are some of the other things that you do outside of your job that, kind of help you rest, help you get some ease, things like that? What are some of your other hobbies and interests?
This is a terrible question to ask me. I'll tell you why. And this, my leadership, when I do these leadership, programs across the country, I try to tell them that probably if you're looking for me in terms of balance, I'm probably not the person to talk to. And that is something I'll put on the table. It's something I'm still trying to work on, because I get obsessed with work, and I get obsessed with that part of my life, right? And pandemic helped me, right? I call my kids a lot more than I used to than prior to pandemic, and I try to be more engaged than I ever used to be. So again, trying to look at some of the positives through crisis and devastation. One of the things I think those type of life-changing events do, they do change your life and your outlook on life. And so I understand in terms of that that our personal relationships, when we're talking about relationships, are the most critical in our lives, right? And I just, it's a struggle for me. So just let you know, it's a struggle for me, and it's a struggle for me not to sit on the, even when I'm on the beach on the weekends, not to have my
Like on
computer there,
your,
work on my
yeah.
computer and answering emails. It's hard for me not to wake up or go to bed at night or wake up in the middle of the night thinking about something I missed at work, a mistake I made, or something that's yet to be done. And I'll tell you right now, there's I think segments in our society, and this used to be even more so prior to being about, there's this pride that people take into that. Like, I work all the time, and you know, everything is work to me. I Pandemic helped me question that, and it's helped me become a better leader, because my understanding about how those who work with me, right? You know, my style of working, I don't want to impose that expectation on anyone else, right? And so, still working on it, right? It's part of our growth, and hopefully I'll get there before I retire in terms of that. But it is something I continue to work with. So, but what do I try to do? Uh, I do spend time at the beach, but work. But it's a nice atmosphere, you know, because it's a beautiful lake right here. We have the federal park. It's a beautiful lake. Why wouldn't we take advantage of that as well too? But I like watching independent movies as well too. It's you know, it's a brain drain for me sometimes. You know, sometimes I try to watch content, you know, that may not be the most compelling in terms of what's talking, but you need that kind of brain release
Yeah.
as well too when you're dealing with such high level issues all the time in terms of that. And I like to read, especially I like to read all the all the faculty here. I try to get through all the books that they've written and the
Aw.
content they've written as well too, because that to me is fascinating. So for me, it's always been, you know, my love of documentaries, right, and my love of nonfiction, right,
Oh,
and
wow.
historical things is things that drive me in terms of that. And you know, invest in myself and in my family and my kids as well too. You know, my daughter's an actress, and it's and my son is in the creative space as well too. My stepson has been working as a chef, and now is working for the trades in New
Oh,
Jersey. And
wow.
so they give me a lot of diversity of thought about
Uh-huh.
how they're working and developing as well too. So in the minimal time that I have, right, I I either do those things I described or spend it with my family. I don't have too many like personal friends, right? You know, I hear from growing up, oh, you know, when so and so to this reunion, hang out with my buddies and this types of thing. For me, I think that would stretch me too thin, you know, because the community relationships are kind of personal with me as well too. So, you know, during my free time, I'm out in the community trying to talk about IU Northwest and things.
Yeah.
Sounds like work, I know, but it's
But
not
that's
to me.
beneficial too. It feeds your,
It feeds
yeah.
that and family, right? But the concept of like going out on a fishing trip with friends from
It's not
college, or
compelling to you.
well, it would be, I think, but I just don't think there's time to do that, because something's going to have to give at the end of the day. So that's a little snapshot into my dysfunctional life that I'm letting everybody know for history from years to come. But maybe if you do this again, you revisit me in 10 years, I would have personal growth in that area.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that is an area of deficit, and I think it's important to recognize those deficits and what you need to improve on moving
Yeah.
forward.
Well, I really appreciate you being real with us too. It's because that's obviously appreciated.
Yeah, thank you.
So I have two more questions,
Yeah,
I think.
sure.
But the one that I really wanted to ask was that what have been some of your, I'm sure you have a lot, but what have been some of your favorite memories here on campus, you know, before you transition to your next position? We here at IU Northwest really hope that this place is still a home to you. And, you know, we'd just like to look back at some of your favorite memories and things like that.
Well, I have to say bringing the campus back to life, right,
During
led
the
by our
pandemic, yep.
students. Um, with small regional campuses, you get to know students by name, and you see the same students around, and you start developing relationships. So, as you say, you know me, whenever I always say to my cabinet staff and anyone else, if there's an event that involving students, inviting me to it, I'm going to try to make it, right? And so all of the events whether it's group scholars, whether athletes. That's another great cohort of students that we have. Any student cohort, student government, anything that I can meet with and engage with and talk about the future. And something that I always do as well too. And I wish I had actually time to do even more of that, but I always, if a student wanted to meet with me and talk about future, right, I'd always make the time, right? On my calendar somewhere, it's more important than my meeting with even VIPs when they communicate or internally. So, and being able to talk about the futures of our students, whether it's graduate school or going right into the workforce or their academic programs, and being able to help as well too. Can't help every student. We have too many students, but the ones who have come to my office and talked to me about careers, about where they want to go, those are that's that personal thing. The thing about being a leader of an institution, the one-on-one contact starts to getting less and less because you have to make that sacrifice, right? When you become a leader of an institution, you have to say, I kind of have to give up the one-to-one and think, how can I help
Think
on a
bigger,
broader
yeah.
and a macro? And so it has a price. It has a price. So I try to mitigate that price of leadership by establishing relationships and listening to students and engaging and hearing their stories and being inspired by their stories. So it's important to have that as well too, because it keeps you real in terms of your macro leadership as well too. So I would say on a general level, my engagement with students, and a lot of times with faculty and staff mentors right there as well too, to seeing that whole dynamic. And then we have community involved in it as well. When you see that dynamic play out and you see, like I said, the light bulbs go on that have gone on with me as well too. I remember a couple of years back, we had the undersecretary for the United States Department of Education came to visit here. I mean, that's second in command within the Department of Education, VIP to the highest level. We had brought group scholar students. We had students from all our support programs attend, student government, from some of our academic programs, and to be able to see them engage and talk to somebody like the undersecretary on national policy. I mean, how great is that, right? And encouraging students, to get out there, whether it's on even in Washington D.C. when we bring students there, and anytime where I can see that engagement, and again to see the vision of what they can accomplish, that is
it's like
that is
seeing
life
your hard
affirming.
work pay off.
Yeah, that's life affirming, right? And that's
It's
certainly
amazing.
job reaffirming as well. So.
That's incredible, and I'm really glad that you feel that way, especially now. And I'm sure you're going to feel that way for many years to come.
I will, and again, I think the challenge now in this other leadership role I'm having right now as vice president, university vice president, regional campuses, and online education. The tendency is now to be even further removed, right? Because you're trying to advance regional campuses, including IU Northwest, on an institution-wide level, beyond being a campus chancellor, and so I'm going to have to continue to do things like this to keep myself grounded in terms of mission, always reminded about why we're here, right? And it's not about our titles, it's not about salary, it's not about our standing, our personal standing. At the end of the day, if I can't serve the students in our campuses, I won't be here. I'll have to tell you that, because it's not enough for me to hold a position. You have to make impact, and you have to be able to make impact, and that will keep me going and inspired and excited moving forward. But I wouldn't have taken this job if I didn't believe that I know IU supports me, and IU supports our regional campuses, and so I see a lot of ability to move things forward in the coming years as well too.
That's amazing, and that leads me to my last question,
Okay.
which you probably anticipated already. But as you are transitioning to this next position that you've been working in the case that you might look back in 5-10 years back at this interview, what would you say some of your long-term goals or your outlook for the future in your new position, or even with this campus specifically? What are some of your goals that you hope to accomplish in the coming years?
The overriding goal goes again, everything is interconnected, connects back to things we've talked about already, is to really daylight the power of the regional campuses, right? Both internally in IU, and there's an audience here that's very receptive. to learning more about it, but also, statewide, right, and nationally. I think for me, telling that value narrative of what we do on a daily basis here, um, how we help change lives. Again, I think that's core to what is in some ways missing in higher education across our country.
Mm-hmm.
That discussion, we talked about our mission and our value narrative. So for me now, having a more macro job of overseeing our regional campuses, I know what's happening here. I know our value here, but these value sets are in every regional campus. And so how do we daylight that? How do we daylight that? And some of the work that we do here, which may look different, is nonetheless just as valuable in other campuses as well too. So you'll see me doing a lot of talking and a lot of promoting and a lot of collaboration. So now that's not collaboration directly and only with IU Northwest, it's collaboration with IU Northwest, South Bend, Kokomo, Southeast, and East, or three of them, or two of them, statewide, to bring resources, funding, to bring collaborations and more opportunities for our students, to be engaged statewide.
With the community,
and with the community as well too. So I think that's a goal of mine moving forward. And we'll see how successful I
am. I'm sure you will be.
Well, it's the team at the end of the day, right? So my success relies on both the vice president portfolio and the reports in there, but on the regional chancellors as well. So we have to work together. I know from here, I probably said this last night, but I say this in any event where we're celebrating something we did. It really wasn't me, because as leader, we're making connection collaborations, but someone who's really doing the real hard work there, and 99% that's students, faculty, and staff doing the work. If the substance wasn't there, I would have nothing to talk about, right? Or I would be talking and the substance is not there to back it up. So the core of the energy that we have here, that's what I rely on. And I'm not creating that core. That core is there. That core is, it's because of you, that core is already there. And that's in every regional campus, right? And so we just need to daylight that core and provide opportunities for our leadership across our regional campuses to talk about it and to kind of brag about our students. Right? We should brag about our students, because they're incredible stories. Right?
Well, I'm very excited to see what's to come in the coming years.
Thank you. I am too. With that weight, with the weight of expectation.
No.
That I feel, but I hope to make good on that as well too.
So, this concludes our IUN interview for today. Ken Iwama, I cannot thank you enough for coming in today.
Well, thank you so much.
This has been an incredible interview, and I know that this will be inspirational, not just to me, but for so many other students, faculty, and staff, for people to watch as well. So thank you so much.
Well, wouldn't it be funny if a few years from now, you're sitting in this chair as chancellor, whether it's this or another institution, if that is your pathway, but like I said, for all our students, to the extent they want to, right? Leadership isn't for everyone, right? It isn't. It isn't. It's but they lead. Everybody can lead from, as my predecessor used to say, lead from where they are, right? And so whether it's chancellor, president of the United States, or any other capacity, those skills that you're learning now in terms of empowerment, that can be in any position, in any industry, in any profession across. So just some parting words in terms of
I'll take that.
Okay.
Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this interview.